Hey guys, today I will show you how to evaluate numbers raised to fractional and negative fractional and also zero powers. Well, as a good rule of thumb, the idea is you want to rewrite your fractional power and convert it into a radical or root form by using the following properties. Say you have been given 2.25 raised to a half power. So, since your base number 2.25 happens to be as a decimal number, so you want to kind of get rid of this decimal number, and the best way to do is just convert it into a fraction. So you could do it just simply right off to the side. So 2.25, it's the same thing as 2 and 25 over 100. So at this point, 25 over 100 can be reduced to 1/4, since 25 fits into 25 once and 25 goes into 100 4 times. So it simplifies to 2 and a fourth, a quarter, and also I would recommend you always convert it into improper fraction, since this power could be rewritten as a root, and eventually we are going to take a root, any root. So it's better to rewrite it as an improper fraction. So 2 times 4 gives you 8 plus 1 gives you 9 over 4. So I'm going to rewrite this base as a 9/4, keeping this power at this point, so you have a half power. Now, as I mentioned before, the main idea, as a good rule of thumb, so you want to convert it and turn it into a radical, a root form by using the following properties. So the first property says if you have any base a, provided that a is greater than or equal to 0, raised to a half power. It's precisely the same thing. It's absolutely the same thing as equivalent to a square root of a. And the general rule, so basically this kind of rule, some people think of this kind of a separate rule, but basically the first one derives from the second line. So if you are given any fractional power or rational exponent or rational power, whatever you name it, so it can be converted into radical form, and the bottom number m indicates that you're taking an mth root of this base number a, and the top number n means that you're raising that entire value to the nth power. Now, since at this point you are given just a half power, so it simply means just the square root of 9 over 4. And be careful, so this root has to be taken from entire fraction, so 9 over 4. And recall that when you take a square root of a fraction, so you could simply split it up. You could break it down into 2 roots. So you take separately the square root of top and you divided it by a square root of a bottom, so square root of 4 in this point. And all you need to do is just figure out, so since both of them, 9 and 4, they are both perfect numbers, and the square root of 9 just leave you with 3, and square root of 4 comes out to be 2. So since 3 times 3 gives you back this 9, and 2 times 2, that would leave you with 4. So 3 over 2, that's your answer for that problem. Well, if you like, you could, since it happens to be an improper fraction, you could basically convert it into a mixed number, but both ways are fine. So you end up getting something like 1.5, since 2 times 1 gives you 2, plus 1, that leaves you with 3 over 2. So again, both ways of writing your answer perfectly fine. And we're done. Alright, how about this one? So your base happens to be as a fraction. So no matter what base you are given, no matter what base is, so you still have to keep it. So your base is 1 over 1000. And now I'm going to apply this second rule. So look at your power. So your power is a fraction. Its entire exponent has to be taken into consideration. So you do not get confused, do not get frustrated by this given power. So it's fraction itself. And again, as I mentioned before, all you do is just applying the second rule. You could basically match up. So your m, your top number is 2, and your bottom number m is 3. And all it does is just take this cube root of this number and you raise this value to the second power. You square it. And by the way, I do separate videos on fractional powers, negative fractional exponents, decimal exponents, negative decimal exponents, and all links will be down below in the description box. And if you are down for more examples and explanations, because I did cover all of these cases that might come up, so definitely check them out. Now, all you need to do is just take the cube root of this fraction. So you always do whatever comes in the parentheses, so it's a fraction. And again, you take the cube root of top, which is 1, and cube root of 1 is obviously 1. And the cube root of 1000 is just 10. So you end up getting 1 over 10. And you have this second power outside, so you keep it at this point. And finally, the last step, so you want to square this number, so it simply becomes 1 over 100. So you just simply 10 multiply by itself. So that's your answer for that second one. Alright, say you have something like this, 11 and 1 over 9 raised to the negative a half, and you need to evaluate this number without obviously using a calculator, so you need to find the value. Alright, again, your base appears to be as a mixed number, so you don't want this. You want to convert it into an improper fraction. So you could do it basically off to the side, or 11 times 9 gives you basically 99 plus 1 gives you 100 over 9. So that's your new base that is obviously equivalent to the old one. Now, look at this power. Your power happens to be a negative number. It's a negative fractional power. And by the way, I have a separate video on just negative fractional exponents, and you could link would be down below in the description box, and you could jump into this and check out for that explanation. Now, as a good rule of thumb, first of all, you want to get rid of this negative power. And negative power indicates the reciprocation. So all that means that you need to take the reciprocal, 1 over a raised to the positive power. Say you're given power, let's say minus k, the k could be any number, including a fraction. That's basically what we're given over here. So that's precisely the same thing. It's equivalent to 1 over a raised to the positive k. So since your base, again, it's a fraction, so when you take the reciprocal, that all that means that you need to swap, you need to switch, turn upside down, top and bottom of your fraction. So 9 goes on top, basically, in other words, and 100 goes on bottom. And your power becomes positive, so it's not negative anymore. Now things getting better. Now, Anytime when you come across this fractional power, you want to turn it into a radical form. So since it's a half, it's the same thing as a square root of 9 over 100. And it's very, very similar to what I did before. So you have a square root of a fraction, so you just take the square root separately, you split it up. Square root of 9 over square root of 100, and you will be left with 3 over 10, since 3 times 3 gives you back this 9, and 100, 10 times 10 gives you back this 100. So both of the numbers, again, they are perfect squares, and it comes out to be 3 over 10. Now, say you have something like this. So it's very, very similar basically to what we did over here. So let me go through this like kind of concisely, so I'm not going to linger over here. So negative power, and it's negative 3 over 2. So first thing to do, you want to get rid of this negative power, so by taking the reciprocal of your fraction. So 25 goes on top, 9 goes on bottom, and your power becomes positive. Now, apply the second rule, so convert this fractional power into a radical form, into a root form. So your bottom number 2 goes as an index for your root, so your root becomes a square root, and just recall that for square root we don't write this 2 over here. It's implied, it's understood, it's assumed to be 2, so it's not explicitly written over here. You could write it, but I mean it's not the thing. So a 25 over 9 goes underneath your square root, and all this thing cubed raised to the third power. Now you take the square root first, and square root of top number 25 similarly, that would leave you with 5, and square root of bottom becomes just 3. Again, both numbers are perfect numbers, and you need to cube it, raise it to the third power. And finally, thankfully, thank you Lord, the last step. So remember, when you are given a fraction and you are raising it to a power, so again you have to raise separately top and bottom to the given power. So 5 cubed, so just ask yourself 5 times 5 times 5 gives you 125, and 3 times 3 times 3 gives you 27. Again, if it's a little bit difficult for you to do it in your head, you could just simply write it off to the side, and you are good to go. So that's your final answer. Again, your top number 125 seems like bigger than bottom number. If you like, if you wish, if you are asked for, if you are required to mix it to give you answer as a mixed number, feel free to just turn it into a mixed number. If you do, you end up getting 4 and 17 over 27. That's your mixed form for that improper fraction. Alright, and the last two kinda special dishes. Alright, you are given a decimal raised to the 0 power. Just keep in mind that it's a special rule, and it does by definition. So any number a, say, raised to the 0 power gives you 1. So whatever base you are given, so 0 power gives you that instantaneous answer, which is 1. So whatever base you are given again, so it could be decimal fraction, so your final answer is just 1. So the same goes for this example. So regardless that your base is a fraction and it happens to be a mixed number, whatever number you are given, including just integers, 5, 6, negative 5, a half, 3 over 2, something like this, a mixed number, so instantly, immediately right off the bat, so your answer is 1. Alright, with this being said, I hope it has been helpful to you. Huge thanks for watching, and train your brain. And by the way, for other videos, just follow the links down below in the description box if you are up to more examples on this fractional, negative fractional, decimal or recurring power stuff. So definitely feel free to check them out. All right, and I forgot, what should I say? Bah, my brain has gone off. My brain is off now. I know everyone hates math, but how can I forget this? I know everyone hates math, but if you like my video, please hit this like, share with your friends, leave the comments down below, and be sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't, so you'll not miss out my new videos.